Okay, so we are done testing our insert handler and update handler method. But our test class is quite big at the moment. So it's like we already have 180 lines of code, and most of these lines are wasted in creating this test data because we need to create it again and again in each and every test method. The reason why we are doing it is because when you create test data in one single test method, it is not available to other test methods. But there is a solution for that. We can have a test setup method in our test class to create our test data, and the test data that we'll create in this test setup method will be available to all the test methods that are there in that single test class. So these test setup methods enables you to create common test data easily and efficiently because you create it once and it is available to all your test methods. A test setup method doesn't take any arguments and it doesn't return any value, very similar to the other test methods. You can have only one test setup method per Apex test class, and within the same method you need to create all your test data at once. In order to mark a method as test setup method, you need to use @test setup annotation. Let's take a look at one of the example of a test setup method. So here this is a test setup method called prepare data, and we are using our @test setup annotation to let Apex know that this is a test setup method. And within this method, we are creating some accounts which will be available to all the other test methods in that particular test class. So now let's go back to our contact trigger handler test class, and we are going to create a test setup method there. I always like my test setup method to be the first one in my test class. Let's use @test setup annotation. I'm also going to make it public, and let's leave the name as make data. Now I'm going to copy these lines of code from here. Let's cut it actually and paste here. So what I'm doing now, we are creating two test accounts and then we are creating test contact records as well. And now this test data will be available to all our test methods. And of course we need to make some changes to some of our test methods where some extra test data is required.